Hey, Kylie.
Hey, Brad.
Welcome back to another edition of Interventions and
Detentions. And I'm Kylie.
And I am Brad.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome back, everybody. We are coming at you with a whole new episode this week, and we are on what number?
20, actually.
20.
Yeah.
Wow. How did we get here?
I don't know. It's been kind of a blur the last couple of weeks. It's almost the end of school, so everything's kind of a blur at this point. But
Seems like we just started this thing.
Yeah.
But here we are, 2020.
Having a great time.
Wow.
I hope our listeners are enjoying getting, some new information every week. We're really enjoying coming at you every week. So
yep, starting to see a little more interaction on the social media pages. We like that. We want to see more interaction, questions, topic ideas.
Yep, we appreciate all of you. So.
All the stuff. Yes, we do.
All right, Brad, what is today's episode about?
So we're going to jump into social media with elementary students, which, we have primary students. We don't see a lot of this, but we see some stuff.
We see some.
Stuff.
We probably don't see as much that's actually going on.
No.
I'd hate to say, but
we're going to talk about some of the things we see. We're going to throw some data and some stats at you today to think about. And really, my goal for this episode, too, is just to raise awareness for not only administrators, educators, but also parents.
Absolutely.
Because I think, a lot of times parents, and I'll say I'm just as guilty as this, we throw a device in a kid's hand because it's going to occupy their time. I don't have to worry about them. They're going to be okay over here. But what are we really doing when we hand them that device and let them just go? So hopefully we give you some insights, some ideas, and maybe just some things to think about today.
So let's kind of just jump into how these primary kids, and remember, we deal with K1, 2, but this even kind of goes into our elementary school,
Absolutely.
3, 4, 5, kind of everywhere. How primary students, how are they interacting with social media? I mean, obviously they're too young to have their own accounts, but how are they using it? Are they getting on? How are they?
Well, what I've seen before is a lot of kids making fictitious accounts, saying I'm 13 years old or whatever. They have figured out, probably from siblings, how to access and, fake birth dates and things like that. Or sometimes I think they're even using siblings' accounts and things like that. So they know their way around. They can get around those kind of restrictions, I guess, because there really aren't any restrictions.
Right.
And they go cruising down that highway. So it's scary.
And I think a lot of times, I'm sure we're all, we've all done it before. Parents give their kids their phone or their iPad to use for something, and hey, they're going to get on the apps, even if they're not their own apps.
Yeah.
They're going to get their parents' apps because they have them, those kind of things. So here's our first stat. 38% of children under the age of 8 have used social media apps. And that comes from Common Sense Media.
And I'm surprised. I would almost expect it to be a little bit higher, and I hate to say that. But
I would too. 38% of children under the age of 8.
Yeah.
That's still scary enough, that percentage.
It is. And I've even had at this level, and again, we teach primary K1, 2, even just this year, on a TikTok account of mine that I used really to promote this show more than anything, had one of our students, start to follow our page, even made a comment saying, "Hi, this is so-and-so." Went to the parent, let them know, like, "Hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but got a little comment from your child and just wanted you to make aware." And I was honestly kind of surprised the parent wasn't like, "Oh, yeah."
They were aware, yeah.
They were aware and they were okay with it. And we're talking a student that is 7 or 8 years old. So falling right into that stat of 38% of children under the age of 8 using social media apps.
But I think that kind of goes along too, and this is nothing to that parent or anybody else, but I think a lot of times maybe we're not educated enough to know the risks always. It just seems like it's a funny app where they can watch funny videos, but there really are, some risks, a lot of risks.
A lot of predators out there.
With social media. So maybe hopefully this podcast can help kind of educate some people with that too.
And I, kind of going back a little bit, like talking about what devices kids are even using. Like obviously we give kids iPads here at school. That's their learning tool. But I feel like they're safe and they've got restrictions and limits on them of how kids can use them.
Right.
Kids can't download apps to them and things like that. They're the apps that we put on them or the apps that they have. Now that doesn't stop them from getting on the internet and accessing other things. Or I don't know. I'd love to do a survey for our primary kids' parents to see how many kids at this age have their own phone. I bet there's more than what we think.
What age did you get a phone?
So,
were there phones back then when you were young?
Oh gosh, no. When I was young, no,
Yeah, no.
no. We were just talking about this last night. I don't know even what we were talking about with Sherry and I, but I was like, that was before phones. Like we were engaged, I think, and had a house fire at our house. And I said, how did I get a hold of you that night to let you know? Because she ended up coming to the house to make sure everything was okay. And she said, you called me on your landline phone at like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yeah, we didn't have cell phones yet. Like, I think her parents had the old mobile U.S. Sprint bag phone, we called it. Take the bag phone when you go out. Mm-hmm. You plug it into the cigarette lighter and whatever, you have service. But I didn't get a cell phone until I was teaching, so that would have been 97.
Wow, that's crazy.
98, yeah.
I didn't get one till middle school, and I only got one in middle school to be able to call my parents to pick me up from practice. I mean, you didn't text people, and you didn't call people, and there wasn't games on the phones.
No.
Like, I literally just used it to call my mom and dad to come pick me up from stuff. So
me personally, as a parent, when I went from one elementary school to a middle school, and we decided to bring our girls to the corporation I was working in, Meredith was going into 4th grade, and we made the decision to get her a phone then only because I was dropping her off at a school away from my building in the morning. She was going to be on her own for a little bit.
It's more of a safety situation.
It was definitely a safety thing, but I honestly look back at that a lot of times like that was probably not the best decision as a parent. I mean, I wanted to have access to her, but I was also giving her access to a whole lot of other things.
Do they make phones that only like call out, and you know what I mean? Like, is there phones still that
I think there is.
You can only call or maybe text.
Yep.
Not games, not those kind of things.
I think they do still make a child-friendly.
Yeah, that would be nice
cell
if
phone.
they did.
I think they do. Maybe we should do some research on that and see. But it's just scary when you give the kid a phone. And you're thinking it's just communication.
I mean, we've seen kindergartners with phones.
Absolutely.
Walking in this building.
Yeah, we have kids bring phones to school. A lot of times they're not in service anymore, and they're truly using them for like a game, a glorified game.
But still, they have access to a phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the age of 5 or 6.
Yeah. And I don't know, like even with our iPads, I still see kids. I mean, we have kids that are so focused on gaming on them, and they're not always educational games. We have a lot of good educational games and things that kids can do, but you can start to see the addiction, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like
at a very young age.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's go to, and we kind of talked about this, age-restricted platforms, fake birthdays, having parent-approved accounts, and how kids kind of get around from that. So here's our next stat: 60% of 8 to 11-year-olds have at least one social media profile. Wow.
And
wow.
We ask ourselves, do parents know about the 13-year-old? I do, because as an administrator, I had done some research. I'm like, you're not even, you're not supposed to have an account until you're 13 years old. And I've tried to make parents aware of that. And I think some are shocked by it when they hear it, because they don't think about, there is this cutoff.
Right.
But I think a lot don't care either.
That stat came from OVCOM 2024. So
nice.
I want to give shout outs to where we're getting our information. So, that is, but again, just something that we need to continue to educate our parents, educate ourselves, because we don't think of it. I mean, we don't think that there's a 13-year-old rule, but So,
and I don't know where that number came from.
Exactly.
I'm like, why did they pick 13? Is that because it's the first teenage year? Is the brain developed at 13? Now I can figure out how to navigate social media. I don't think so.
They might have just come up with it.
Yeah, I'd like to push it off to 16, or maybe even 18, or maybe even not at all.
So I have a good question for you, and I don't know if we know the answer. Should schools be enforcing age limits for apps being used at home? That's hard.
That is hard, because I don't know how we enforce it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it's at home.
Yeah, I feel like communicating it. I feel like, I'll go back to the first grader that commented on our page, immediately blocked it, reported it. I do that a lot. I've had kids over the years who are not at that age of 13, try to send me a friend request on Facebook or other platforms, and I will immediately report it because I know that they're underage, and I don't know that when you report it, a lot gets done about it.
No, but at least, you've tried to do something about it.
And I do try to let the parent know, hey, just so you're aware, your child's using social media. They're not supposed to be yet, and then it's up to the parents at that point.
So talk a little more, Brad, about like if a student is using our device that we give them from school, is there ways that we can track what they've done at home? Is there ways that we can block them from using apps on our device when they're at home?
Right.
How does that kind of work?
Without having our tech person right here, yes. I would say yes, because I know we've talked about those things before. I feel like we have filters on our iPads, and that can do both those things. It can track history, but I believe we can also like remote in and shut down certain things that are on. We don't have to like wipe everybody's iPad the same, but we can go into individual iPads and see what they've been doing, and also put stops on things. Because I know like YouTube, and we'll talk about YouTube in a little bit. That's a big thing. Like kids just love to watch YouTube videos. I love to watch YouTube videos, but sometimes it becomes a distraction.
Not shocking to me.
I know, not shocking at all. But it becomes a distraction when it's happening in class when they're supposed to be doing other things. So there are ways to put limits or shut things down from time to time, and that does help us as educators.
And I know we've had a couple times where we've pulled up history on a student's iPad when they come back and have seen that, this is the reason you're not getting your e-learning done, because you have watched YouTube for 10 hours during the day.
That's kind of the funny thing in my mind, that these kids can figure out all the apps and get-arounds. They don't go back and wipe out the history.
To wipe their history.
and it's there, and we can you've not done work, but you've spent 20 hours looking up YouTube videos on how to make paper airplanes. I don't know. It's fun. So let's monkey see, monkey do. Talking about kids copying trends that are out there, dances, TikTok stuff. I mean, I think TikTok is probably the big platform that our age group or elementary, middle school kids are on right now. And Snap.
Yes.
I don't Snap. I couldn't tell you anything about. Sure don't. Never. I just did TikTok this year because I thought it would help our platform a little bit and get the message out.
I don't like TikTok that much. I don't have it. Because I don't need to scroll and watch
videos all day long. I mean, there's some entertaining stuff on there, and I can see why people like go down that rabbit hole, and that's kind of why I didn't. But I don't, other than like posting our, promos for our podcast on there, I don't really spend a lot of time on TikTok. And again, Snapchat, holding a phone up and taking a selfie of myself to send to someone, I don't get it. And I had a really cool story when I was at middle school as a principal. Had a mom bring her son in one day, and he was just bawling and out of sorts. And I'm like, what is the problem? She goes, well, I had to take his phone away for something that he did. She was being the parent, discipline him. And I'm not sure why she needed to bring him into school and tell me this. But as he's sitting there crying, I'm like, what is the big deal? You're going to get it back. Now, I'm going to lose all my streaks.
Oh, that's a big thing.
That is a big thing. First of all, I'm like, what is a streak? And then I figured out what a streak was.
A snap streak.
Yeah, but because he wasn't going to have access to his phone for a certain amount of time, those streaks were going to be gone. And he was legit
When I worked at the high school, that was like the biggest thing. Like, you have to keep your streak with your people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't streak. Not going to streak. Not going to keep a streak.
Okay, got it.
All right.
But let's kind of talk about viral challenges on TikTok while we're talking about TikTok.
Yeah.
This is a huge thing, especially when I worked at the high school.
Has it dropped off a little bit? Because I don't hear about that as much, but about when I was in middle school, we were very aware of these virals.
So it has dropped off, but recently I read a news article that new viral challenges are coming out.
Okay.
And schools are prepping for them because they're coming into schools. So basically, somebody on TikTok, who knows, I don't even know who it is, starts some type of challenge. And some of them are funny, some of them are just goofy, like...
But some of them are really
dumping water on your head. First, I remember those. But some of them are super dangerous. The Tide Pod Challenge.
Yeah.
There's been egg ones. I mean, there's some really dangerous, scary...
Yeah. I can remember some about, like, doing things to teachers, like physical things, like hitting them or slapping them.
Yes, the slap challenges.
Yeah.
So it's very important as educators, as parents, as adults, that we are paying attention to those. Not that we need to be scrolling TikTok and finding them, but if you see a group of students doing something that, like, they're laughing about or they're videoing a lot, you might want to look into it, because it's probably a nationwide challenge that someone's doing, and it can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
We went through a couple of those at the high school, and I'm sure you did at the middle school.
Well, and I can see kids at this age, again, in our primary level, like, not understanding that that's not
Oh,
appropriate.
yeah, because it looks funny.
Yeah, it looks funny, and on that side of the screen, there's no punishment, there's no consequence, there's nothing happening, and so let's just go out and have fun and do this. And I mean, we had kids at my middle school. Well, not so much my middle school, but at the high school at the corporation I was at, like just tearing up bathrooms and
that one went through here
like
too,
ripping off the paper towel dispensers
completely off, and laughing and posting it.
Yeah, and then I don't understand.
No, but you gotta be famous on the TikTok.
I guess, but you're gonna be
anyway,
famous
just
in
kind
detention.
In detention. Just watch out for those because they are real and they can be very dangerous. Some of them are very fun. They think they're just funny or whatever. They're harmless, but there can be some really dangerous ones.
So sliding forward into we go from the discipline part of it, I guess now, and even more so. To me, it's not so much about discipline and consequence as the effects that this is having on our kids, the social emotional effect. And I've seen it with my own girls. Like,
I've seen it with myself.
Yeah. The pressure of, they didn't like, or they left me unread. Oh. Like, I didn't understand what that meant the first time. Like, what do you mean?
That is terrible.
They didn't open my message or my...
That gets people.
Yeah, and I'm like, big deal.
There's actually some really good documentaries out there on Netflix and some other different platforms that talk about those kind of things, like the likes. If you search social media on any of those things, there's some really good ones. Yeah. I used to teach health, so we talked about this a lot at the high school about, you don't have to have the likes, but it's a perceived notion that you do, and it's a whole thing.
It's having some big effects, and I think maybe more so on girls than boys for some reason. I mean, I think they,
I think it's more outwardly to girls. They
want that attention. They need, almost like they seek it. But I think
that it can affect boys too, just maybe a little. You guys just don't talk about it.
Well, obviously, if I had a kid crying because he's going to lose his streaks, I think that's,
There you go. That's it. So here's a couple more stats. Screen time before the age of 5 is linked to attention issues.
I can definitely agree with that.
So that's from JAMA Pediatrics, which 100% makes sense.
Yeah.
And, this is a good one. This is kind of a recommendation. The AAP recommends 1 hour max per day for 2 to 5-year-olds of screen time.
That would be more than enough,
That would be more than enough.
And I wonder if that just is talking electronic devices, or does that also include television? Because I know a lot of times we set our kids in front of, Sesame Street or some of these.
Or you have it on in the background and they may be watching. You don't really know. I don't know. That's a good...
I mean, but man, you go out to a restaurant and what do you see while you're waiting on your food? Kids with...
phones, iPads.
And I do it too. I mean, do I have an addiction to my phone? I would clinically say yes, probably. Yes. I mean, I would be lost without it if I left it at home today because it's my hub, it's my email, it's my calendar.
It's everything.
But it's also my Facebook, it's my fun, it's my social interaction with people,
So are we seeing attention regulation and aggression issues tied to screen exposure?
I think so.
I would say, without having done full research on it, I would say absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't say definitive exactly what all those look like day to day in a kid, but I think that's definitely a contributing factor to a lot of the issues that we see with kids.
And this next one, behavior framework, how can that evolve with the digital influence? We've had kids that put up fake finger guns, those kind of things, and that stems from the video games that they're playing. I mean, and they've said that.
Yeah. And they don't know why they're doing it.
No, because they've seen it. They've either seen it in movies, they've seen it in TV shows that they watch, or they've played video games, and it's okay on that. Yeah. So they have, especially at this age, they have a hard time understanding.
Separating real world from digital world, And
I think that can get scary sometimes, too.
Absolutely, because, as they grow and continue to learn these things outside of the classroom, where are the parameters? Where, I don't know. It's interesting to say the least. We're in a whole new world, and we've been there for a while. It's not like this is anything new,
but I feel like it's getting younger and younger and younger.
I've always kind of thought, like, especially in a school, I look at where we are right now, and I love having iPads for our kids to use at school. I'd love for them to stay at school, but we're not there because we're doing virtual learning and things. And
it's hard.
How could we pull back? Could we actually pull back and say, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore, and we're going to just use paper and pencil? And I don't know what kind of,
I'd like to do some. I mean, I'd like to read some studies or see, if schools are still doing that. And
I just had an idea. I think next year we should pick a random week and we're going to unplug.
Ooh.
We're going to put the iPads up. We're going to unplug.
I love that.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
And maybe challenge parents.
Teachers too. Phones, computers.
Yeah. And do it at home even. I mean, now, could I do that?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think so. But at least, I think during the day, I could probably put my phone aside, put it in a drawer.
It'd be worth trying.
Yeah. I'd have my laptop still that I could access calendar and email and all that stuff. Because you got to have that communication.
Oh, yeah. We would never remember any of our meetings.
We're going to do that.
Okay,
I like that. We're going to unplug for a week.
Hey, you heard it here, folks.
Now, if we close and have a snow day or something.
Well, yeah, then
Whoops. Sorry, Superintendent Morgan, the iPads didn't go home today. We'll
Sorry
work around that. So, interesting.
Okay, so let's talk about some actionable takeaways. What can we do? What can we actually do, to help this? I think some things we can add some media literacy into some lessons that we're doing, some SEL. I know at the high school, in my health class, we did a lot of digital literacy, digital safety. I know that our school counselor does
Kristen
some
Alexander,
of that.
shout out to Kristen. She has to, I believe it's part of I think it's a state mandate that they have to do a certain amount. We've actually had, my first year here, the counselor brought in Kathy, I think it's Bledsoe at that time she was working with Indiana State Police, but she was kind of the social media person, and she would come in and talk to kids about the dangers and the predators that are out there on social media, and how easy it is for you to open yourself up to that when you get on these apps.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know that's not a kid on the other side of that other screen. It's somebody that's saying they're 12 years old and they have the same likes as you, and let's get together at the park and meet, and then bad things can happen. So we do. I feel like we do a pretty good job. We could probably always do more at this level.
And I think a big one is modeling the safeties, how to use an iPad correctly, how to use a phone correctly. That can happen in the classroom. That can happen at home. I really like this idea of info nights, having a digital literacy info night, have parents come in and just kind of like that, maybe have someone talk about the dangers. Yeah. I know it seems almost crazy to think we need to do that in a K-2 building, but I mean,
it's definitely trickling down.
I don't think it would be a bad thing.
No. And I know, going back to Kathy Bledsoe, she would offer that too. Like, she would stick around and have a parent night. And there's been some other outside organizations that will do that as well. They'll come in and talk to kids, but they'll also come in and talk to parents. And I don't think we've done one here since I've been here, but we probably need to.
Yeah. So again, that's just a good resource to kind of search up. There's people out there that want to help educate, especially about this topic.
And that's one thing we're going to do after this episode. When we post this week to our social media pages and outlets, we will include some resources for parents and educators of, like where you can go find more information, maybe some tips and ideas of what you can do to help, talk about this with kids and bring it to their attention, because, it's here and it's here to stay. We just want kids to be safe at the end of the day.
We just want to make sure everybody's educated as best as we can to help those kids and ourselves stay safe. Because
if we don't address it now, what's it going to look like when they're in fifth grade? I mean, it's still going to look scary in fifth grade. I have a feeling. I mean,
but if we can, it's kind of that, hit them early. Hopefully, it'll carry on as we go.
Yeah, for sure.
Guess what time it is, Brad?
What time is it?
Rapid fire questions.
We need to have like a little jingle going in there.
I like it.
Rapid fire questions.
Okay, maybe season 2. Ooh,
we're right around the corner.
Right
Teaser for season 2 coming at
teaser.
you. We're not going away, folks.
Yeah, no, we're here to stay. So.
All right, here we go. So I don't know if you can answer this one, and I don't know if I can answer this one because you're not a TikTok user. You said, but what's the funniest TikTok phrase that you've heard a first grader say?
Oh, I don't know.
I was trying to think about this one. I cheated a little bit to see what the rapid fire questions were going to be this week. I don't know that I probably wouldn't know the TikTok phrase.
Yeah, we wouldn't know.
They've probably been throwing them at us all year long.
They probably sing to us every day and we have no idea.
No cap, Mr. T. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, any of that stuff. Skibbity Ohio,
Riz.
I don't know.
No cap.
Do you monitor your screen time?
I have before. I should.
Yeah.
I need to now.
Yeah.
I don't. And I've gotten in a bad screen time habit right now.
Yeah.
And I need to do it better.
I know, like, my phone does, and I think I get a message like, here's your weekly report. I don't look at it.
My phone just stopped doing that. Like, I must be over it.
It just burned it out. Along those lines, I was actually thinking on the way in this morning, like, how much we multitask with our phones. Like, sitting at a softball game last night, I'm on my phone. Watching a TV or movie program,
I'm on my phone. And I don't need to be. Yeah. We don't need to be doing that.
No. And how do we
I don't know.
How do we take it all in?
I know.
We're watching a program. We're on our phone. I see Sherry do it. She'll be reading a book online
and watching
a program or playing a game. And it's like, wow, how have we got to that point? Like, why can't we just put it down?
And you don't realize. I mean, sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing.
No, you don't.
So yes, we probably should monitor our screen.
Probably should.
Would you let a 6-year-old have a YouTube account?
I would say no to having their own account. I mean, getting on there and watching some YouTube videos, I'm okay with, I guess, depending on what the videos are with it.
I don't like YouTube.
I mean, I don't mind. I like to watch certain videos, but
it doesn't shock me.
It's like you pick a video and then you just go down the hole. I mean, it just
you
one
can't
video.
Stop.
Yeah.
So I would say no.
It's funny how the Matrix or whatever of
oh yeah, it gets you.
Yeah,
it knows exactly what you want.
How do you say that word? Algorithms. I was going to say algorithms.
No. Algorithm.
Algorithms. But yeah, I would not let any of my kids have their own accounts until 13. And I feel like I've stuck pretty firm to that. I don't think either girl had any kind of social media account until they were 13.
Okay.
I think.
Is it worse for a kid to watch YouTube Shorts or play Roblox for 3 hours?
So I know nothing about Roblox other than
either.
I've heard of it. I probably should do a little research because I know we have kids using it. And I know shout out again to Kristen Alexander. She's like, it's not great. It's not.
Yes.
There's some
she
bad things.
She keeps us informed a lot about it.
Yeah, she's really good about being on top of these things. And she's got 3 kids of her own, too. And they range from kindergarten to 5th grade. So she's kind of seeing the gamut.
I would say Roblox for 3 hours is worse.
Probably.
Anything for 3 hours, probably worse.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
But I don't know. I don't think either of them are great
I've
for
seen
3
some
hours.
Sketchy stuff on YouTube Shorts too. So there's just no censoring of things either. I mean, you can see lots of bad things out there, I guess. So we'll just leave it at that.
What app would you delete from the internet forever if you could? I think Snapchat.
I was just going to say, even though I don't use it, but I know enough about it.
I use Snapchat, and I think I would because people, I use it just to connect with my friend.
So
one of my... let me tell you.
Okay, and then I'm going to have a question for you.
I don't use it often, but last night, our secretary, Beth, who's been on the... She snapped me from a baseball game a picture of someone holding a snake. How random is that?
Right.
But she just snapped it quick, sent it to me, and I got it really quickly. Okay. So that's how I use... Or one of my best friends and I... record videos talking back and forth. We could just call each other, but we're just walking. We're with our phones, looking at each other, and we just talk back and forth. Hilarious.
Times before Snapchat where you could video text or something.
That's basically what we're doing, but you don't have to use all the data up on your texting, text messages.
In 30 seconds or less, what I'm going to sound like Seinfeld. What is the deal with TikTok? What's the
TikTok
premise?
Or Snapchat?
Sorry, Snapchat. Why? I guess. What's the point of me snapping a picture and sending it to you?
So the point of it is that it goes away very quickly.
The picture goes away.
The picture only stays for. You can set it for 10 seconds, 15 seconds,
but
30 seconds.
But does it go away? Is it still out there floating in digital footprint land?
So what kids think when they use it is that they can send whatever picture they want and then it'll go away. When really, Snapchat, there's a thing that you push and you accept when you sign up for Snapchat that says they have all of your pictures and they can use it whenever they want to for whatever they want to. Okay. And you're signing away that right when you do that.
Wow.
But kids and parents alike don't always know, so kids often...
Send bad pictures?
Not appropriate pictures sometimes.
I've heard this lots of times. It's at the high school level. And
really, a court could ask Snapchat for this picture and they could get it. I mean, adults too do that. I'm not saying just kids, but... So no, the pictures are not actually gone. They're there, but that is the premise of... that's the... And what people like about Snapchat, they think it goes away quickly.
Yeah, and I think kids, when they think about that, they also think they're sending it to one person and they're not going to do anything with it. But boom, it can go.
So it does, if you can screenshot it, but it does tell the person that you screenshotted it. But that doesn't stop them from taking that picture and using it somewhere else.
I bet when they see your picture just got screenshotted, all of a sudden it's like, oh crap.
Yes, exactly. And that's how a lot of things. So I would just get rid of Snapchat because
I would agree.
I don't need to snap video my friend, even though it's funny.
Which influences kids more today? Our teachers or YouTubers?
Do we even need to answer that question?
I would love to say our teachers, and I think our teachers have a great influence on our kids, but...
YouTubers.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. I bet if we asked kids, they would say YouTubers more than teachers.
Yes.
That is scary. I mean...
But it's just also because they only see the YouTubers doing funny things or cool things, and, teachers do have to teach.
Yeah. Now, I have heard kids talk about using YouTube videos for good, like learning how to do something.
There's a lot of our kids do that directed draw. Have you ever heard those? So like it shows a video and it walks you step by step how to draw an animal or something. Like we have a lot of kids that do that for different projects and stuff. So that's a positive for YouTube and the internet.
Wow. I do think that there's some good things out there.
There are some good things.
As much as we probably bash social media today.
Think about talk about your lawnmower stuff. I'm sure you watch videos and looked at reviews
the heck out of that.
For your lawnmower. Yep. So there are positive how-to videos.
I've learned how, I can remember we had a washer that threw an error code once, and I thought, well, maybe I'll look up this code.
Yeah.
I fixed my washing machine that I would have normally called somebody and paid probably $300 or $400, and I fixed it for nothing. I've learned how to do things to brake jobs on cars.
So I guess the point is we've been kind of negative about the internet, but there are some positives. But the biggest takeaway we want to give you is that we just want everyone to be safe, ourselves included. Yeah. Kids, parents, we just want people to be informed so we know it's always evolving. There's always new things that are going on, trends, just things to be aware of, I guess.
Like our PE teacher, Scotty Reese, talks about, mental health, physical health, but we got to talk about social media health too. And we want kids to be socially media healthy. How's that?
Never heard that phrase before, but you know what?
It's mine now. It's copyrighted.
Don't
be using social media health.
What is the date today? 5/16/25.
5/16 at 7:53 in the morning. And just so you know, folks.
Yeah, this is our first morning pod, and I think it was pretty good. It feels pretty good. We got our coffee. We're doing good.
We hit our little recording closet, and we're like, let's go. We got this now. We totally, flipped the switch, didn't we, this morning? Because I was walking down the hallway
and now here we are.
And we are at 32 minutes, so we got to wind this baby up. So if you have questions, comments when we post this, again, we'd love to hear from you. Throw us some social media thoughts.
And we will send out post a
little
information sheet.
Resources. How's that?
Resource with just some different resources you can kind of check out. Again, there's lots of things on the internet that you can find, of course. Mm-hmm. But just keep yourselves informed. Reach out if you have questions. Talk to your kids. They're going to know a lot too, and you can have those conversations. And
absolutely. So Kylie kind of started the episode with we're on our downward curve. We've got 4 more days of school next week. So I think we haven't really talked about episode, but I think what I would like to do maybe is let's talk about those end of year things next week. We'll keep it real random. We might not even do an outline next week. Let's just come in here cold and see what we do. It could be a 10-minute episode. It could be 30.
Sounds like it is going to be cold next week.
It is going to. We're planning our field day, and we saw that it might be in the 30s to 40s to 50s next week, and that's better than 90s, but we might be looking at an indoor field day. So we'll talk about end of the year, and we'll also talk about what is lying ahead for interventions and detentions over the summer, because
cool things.
We're not going to be here every day of the week, so we'll probably have to scale back a little bit, but we'll still come at you, so don't worry about that. We don't want to let our 3 listeners down.
No.
4. I don't know.
Okay.
Hey, let's keep it growing. Let's cue up that music. Any final thoughts, Kylie, from today?
A good topic today.
It was a great topic, a scary topic, but one we just want to keep in front of you. So.
Yep. All right, folks, have a great end of your week, and class dismissed.